The bar graph illustrates the average occupancy rates of hotels with different star ratings. The one-star hotels have an occupancy rate of 34%, while two-star hotels record 43%. The rate increases to 54% for three-star hotels and 64% for four-star hotels. Five-star hotels have the highest occupancy rate, at 74%. Overall, the graph shows a clear upward trend, with occupancy increasing as the hotel rating rises. The difference between the highest and lowest rates is 40 percentage points.
The line graph illustrates the daily usage of smart home devices from Monday to Sunday. Usage starts at around 4.2 hours on Monday and drops sharply to 0.6 hours on Tuesday. It then rises to approximately 3.4 hours on Wednesday, before falling slightly to 2.9 hours on Thursday. On Friday, usage increases to about 3.8 hours, followed by another sharp decline to 0.2 hours on Saturday. Finally, it reaches the highest level of around 4.7 hours on Sunday. Overall, the graph shows considerable fluctuations throughout the week, with Sunday recording the highest usage and Saturday the lowest.
The pie chart illustrates the nutritional composition of food. Vitamins make up the largest proportion at 33.3%, followed by minerals at 28%. Protein and fats each account for 10.7%, while fiber represents 9.3%. Carbohydrates have the smallest share, at 8%. Overall, the chart shows that vitamins and minerals constitute the major portions of the nutritional composition, whereas carbohydrates represent the lowest percentage.
The flowchart illustrates the different stages of a healthcare process. First, the process begins with a primary assessment, where the patient's basic condition is evaluated. Next, the patient completes the registration process and receives an appointment. After the appointment, the doctor performs a diagnosis to identify the health problem. The patient then receives the necessary advice, followed by the required treatment or medication. The billing process is also completed during the healthcare journey. Finally, the patient goes through follow-up and monitoring to check their progress and ensure proper recovery. Overall, the flowchart shows a complete healthcare journey from initial assessment to follow-up care.
The map illustrates the distribution of Starbucks stores that voted to unionize across the United States. The green dots represent union wins, with 262 cases, while the pink dots indicate union losses or store closures, totaling 65 cases. The yellow dots show outcomes that were still pending or contested, with 32 cases. The cases are spread across many parts of the country, with a particularly noticeable concentration in the Northeast, West Coast, and several central and southern states. Overall, the map shows that unionization activity was widespread across the United States, with successful union votes considerably outnumbering losses or closures.
The table presents data on carbon emissions from different local authorities in the northeast region of the UK. The figures are measured in kilotons of CO2, along with the emissions per capita. Sedgefield records the highest total emissions at 963.31 kt CO2, followed by Darlington at 829.12 and Durham at 692.75. Easington has 689.81, Derwentshire records 568.06, while Chester-le-Street has the lowest total at 304.58. Looking at the per capita figures, Sedgefield has the highest value at 11.1 tons, whereas Chester-le-Street has the lowest at 5.7 tons. Overall, Sedgefield shows the highest carbon emissions both in total and per capita, while Chester-le-Street records the lowest overall emissions.
The diagram illustrates how a water wheel works to generate mechanical energy. First, flowing water is directed toward the paddles of the wheel. As the water strikes the paddles, it creates a force that makes the wheel rotate. The rotating wheel turns the central shaft and axle, allowing the movement of water to be converted into useful mechanical energy. The water then continues to flow away from the wheel. Overall, the diagram shows how the force of flowing water is used to rotate a wheel and produce mechanical energy.
The chart illustrates the land area of South Africa's 9 provinces, measured in square kilometers. Northern Cape is the largest province, covering 372,889 square kilometers, and accounts for 30.5% of the total land area. Eastern Cape follows with 169,966 square kilometers, representing 13.8%. Free State and Western Cape are almost equal in size, at approximately 129,825 square kilometers and 129,462 square kilometers, respectively. Limpopo covers 125,755 square kilometers, while Northwest has 104,882 square kilometers and KwaZulu-Natal has 94,361 square kilometers. Mpumalanga accounts for 79,495 square kilometers. Gauteng is the smallest province, with only 18,178 square kilometers, or 1.5% of the total. Overall, Northern Cape has by far the largest land area, whereas Gauteng is the smallest.
The bar graph shows the land area of South Africa's 9 provinces in square kilometers. Northern Cape is the largest at 372,889 square kilometers, followed by Eastern Cape at 169,966 square kilometers. Free State and Western Cape are almost equal, at around 129,000 square kilometer each. Gauteng is the smallest province, with only 18,178 square kilometers. Overall, Northern Cape has the most land area, while Gauteng has the least.
The flow chart illustrates the process of rainwater harvesting. First, rainwater falls on the roof and is collected through gutters and pipes. Next, the collected water passes through a filter to remove impurities. After that, the clean water is stored in a tank for future use. The stored water can then be used for watering plants and other purposes. Overall, the process helps collect and reuse rainwater efficiently.